The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Jon Crumley, Hilton class of 1995. It's great to have you on the Big H Podcast.
Awesome. Great to be here, man.
All right. Been
Happy
watching
to be
you way back in the day when you were a star at Hilton, and then followed you a little bit in your college career. But lately, you got a new role at Hilton, and that's an assistant coach on the varsity. How's that going?
It's going awesome. Yeah, Coach Lapani blessed me with an opportunity to come in and be a volunteer for the cadets, and helping out with the linebackers and defense and special teams and anywhere else they need me. So it's been great.
I mean, they say volunteer in the Hilton program, but it's never a volunteer status. I mean, like, you're one of the guys, like, you're in there every day, right?
Absolutely. That was one of the first things that I told them, I'm bought in 100%. I'm going to be here. Treat me like a coach. I can do anything that you need me to do. And I'm all in. And he knows that, I believe.
How many years have you been working with the program?
This is year 3.
Okay. Excuse me. I remember when you first came on the scene and we were working out at a summer workout on LeBeau, and I was seeing what you were teaching, like the 9th graders, because I think he had you slated for Mod B, Mod A. And I went to him, I'm like, Coach, you got to get him up, a higher level. He's like, okay, thanks. It's one time Coach Lapani listened to me, but
yeah.
So he took you up to the varsity right away, right?
Yeah, it was great. I wasn't expecting it initially. Like you said, I was coming in to help out Mod A and, help those guys out. And then I guess he was evaluating me through his, the initial practices. And then I think it was after day 1 of doubles, he pulled me over and pulled me up again.
That's in reference to your sophomore season when you're in high school, right?
Yeah.
So you played in 1993 to 95 or 92 to 94, I forget.
92 to 94. Yeah.
Okay. Same head coach running the program. What did you notice about any differences from when you played to the style of play that he does now?
Not a whole lot. I mean, we're still Hilton football through and through. We're a power football team. We throw the ball when we need to throw. He does. He is a little bit more loose with throwing the ball and spread and different formations and things like that. But no, I mean, we're power football, and that's it.
And how does that style differ from the style of high school now? Because there has been a change, and I don't know when the flip over was, mainly offensively.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it. I mean, even colleges, high schools, everybody's gone to the spread, the philosophy. And again, I don't know when the change exactly happened, but, the spread happened and it caught fire. And, a lot of people are trying to do it, trying to emulate it. Some successfully, some not so much.
Mm-hmm. So you coach the linebackers primarily and then running backs also?
A little bit, yep.
Okay. So when you're coaching linebackers, from when you played to now that you coach, is the drills, is the style, is the technique the same, or did you have to change your technique a little bit to play that spread system?
Well, technique, tackling, obviously has evolved over the years. Back when I played, it was, a little bit different, but we still teach those similar fundamentals. Obviously player safety is paramount. So we do teach differently, different techniques as far as tackling goes. But as far as everything from mindset to being a downhill linebacker, all that stuff is the same.
So in 3 years, the team's, and again, successful, typical Lapani football. You talk about Hilton football. Describe to our listeners, viewers, what Hilton football has meant to your career and what you still see today. Like, what does encapsulate? Because it's a different, if you go watch a Hilton team on a Friday, it might be different than when you watch a McQuaid team, and they all have success. But what is it about the Hilton program that makes it special?
He cares, and the coaches care. I think that's the number one thing. Everybody, all the coaches, obviously Coach Lapani, they care about your players and care about your kids, and they're going to be taught things the right way. And not only about football. Football is, the greatest team sport that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And football, teaches many lessons, many life lessons that goes way beyond the field. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, Hilton football has always done. And as far as personally for me, that family aspect of it is what drew me back. And, we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit more in detail, but that's what also drew me to certain schools, is that similar atmosphere with the coaching staff and the players, and the togetherness, the love of the game, the love of each other, playing for each other. And, just that whole atmosphere that goes along with Hilton football.
And the thing is, like, you're not just stating words. Anybody that's ever been in that locker room, been through doubles with the team, observe it. You're speaking the truth. You're probably one of the few players that I know, and you might be able to correct me, that won 2 sectional titles with football with Coach Lapani, but your sophomore year, and I think, was it your junior year or your senior year as well?
Sophomore year and senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your sophomore season, did he pull you up prior to the season, or was it during the year? And what position did he pull you up to play?
Yeah, I played as a freshman. I played JV, so I'm sure he got a chance to see me and see what I could do on the JV field. And then I was originally slated and actually started. The season started, double session started. I was on the JV squad, and right from day one, other players, my friends, and there was all rumblings of, oh, you're getting pulled up, getting pulled up, you're not going to be on JV. And I think it was after day one or the first session, I got pulled up.
Were there any other sophomores that he pulled up to varsity that year with you?
Yeah, John Starwell, our quarterback, he came up with me. So we were the only 2 sophomores. Back then, it wasn't like it is now, and even at Hilton, that's not very prominent, where sophomores are playing on varsity. Right. It was special to be pulled up and playing on varsity.
So did he play you both ways, or was it just on defense, or what happened?
No, it was just on defense. Pulled me up. I started at linebacker, and I was a backup fullback.
And some of the other guys that played there that were prominent players, or guys that you remember, who named some of those guys?
Oh God, from the sophomore year?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Scott Phillips was the starting tailback. Dave Fleming was our quarterback. You got your Palombos, Philip Petty.
Was Van Zeeland on that team?
Van Zeeland, but he wasn't a senior. I'm trying to remember the seniors. Yeah, but he was a junior that year. And that was a great junior class too. There's so many players and a lot of years in between. So it's a few concussions. So.
Right. You played the game hard.
So many guys. Yeah. So many awesome guys. If I name a few and not everybody, I would feel terrible.
Exactly.
So many great guys.
Well, let's talk about the season in general. I mean, that was one of your sectional titles. I think, did you beat Irondequoit in the finals that year? Or let's go back in regular season. What do you recall about the regular season? Anything, any runs you guys went on, or, were your backs up against the wall a couple of times?
It was a great season. It was kind of unique for me because I did only play defense, and I had the ability to sit back and watch and learn a little bit, obviously, at a young age. but it was mostly a lot of entertainment value because we had a great offense. Scott Phillips was a great tailback, and to watch him work and watch Coach Lapani, run the offense, and we had obviously a really good year that year, and it was fun just to sit back and watch the offense and enjoy it, but obviously, and then get on the field. So it was unique for me because that was the only time that had ever happened. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, in that year, did 8 teams make sectionals, or was it just 4? And do you remember what was it, Class Double B at that time?
It was Double B, which was really Class A,
Mm-hmm.
what it is now. But back then, the regular season meant something. It meant a little bit more because games counted.
Right.
Whereas now they don't. Meaning they don't count as much as far as if you win, that's huge, not just for home field advantage during the playoffs, but it meant something. Everybody didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
So those wins really meant something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a few losses, now you're looking at not making sectionals.
Right.
And, so, yeah, I mean, we had what was unique that year. We had 2 losses. I think it was we lost the regular season to Irondequoit and who was it? Who did we play?
If your host did his research, he would be able to tell you.
Yeah.
It wasn't Batavia or something
Batavia,
like
I think it was. But
Okay.
we lost to those teams, and we got a chance to avenge those 2 teams in the semis, and obviously to win sectionals. So that was great to be able to play them again and beat them.
Right, when it really counted.
Yeah.
And I think you make a great point about, I know you're trying to skate around it, saying like nowadays it's not that the regular season doesn't matter, but in Double A right now is that what we're in, and all 8 teams make the sectional, so you're kind of playing for a good seed.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, 4 teams make the playoffs, and you go from there.
Yeah.
And the ability to avenge those losses is great. Defensively, that year as 10th grader, you led the team in tackles.
Yep.
And any all season awards, second team, first team all county that year, or
I'm not sure. Maybe second team all county, some lower tier awards. Not quite sure.
Did your success surprise you at that young age, being pulled up?
I don't necessarily surprised me. I think I fit. I knew my abilities, and I think I fit right away with what they were trying to do defensively. And obviously, Coach Harmon was running the defense, and he was unbelievable to play for. Great guy, still to this day. I consider myself great friends with him, and I see him all the time, and just not only a great football coach, but a great human being as well. So, it was fun. It was a great opportunity, and luckily I played well.
What any other defensive guys that you worked with that maybe you weren't some of those offensive guys? Again, I'm pressing you for some names, or did a lot of guys go both ways with you or on that team?
Yeah, I mean, usually guys go both ways, especially back then. I mean, we didn't have 56 guys on a team. We had 25 and maybe 12, played or started. So it was rare. You maybe had one like myself that went one way. But usually, back then, especially, you played both ways and you played special teams, and you never stopped.
Back then, was there any state tournament, or was it sectionals ended the season?
It's funny. There wasn't a state tournament, but that year was the first year where they were starting it. They were just in its infancy. So they had one game. It was the regional game. And the idea was the next year they were going to go another game or a full schedule. So there wasn't a full state schedule, but there was one game that we played in the regionals.
Okay. And did they suit you up against a Buffalo area team in that regional?
It was Norwich.
Norwich?
Yeah.
I
think they were the Tornadoes or Cyclones or something like that. Yeah.
How'd you guys fare in that game? Was it win-loss?
Good. We ended up losing the game. They were a tough football team. They were very good up front. They ran a version of a wing T offense, so very hard to defend. But yeah, I mean, it was a battle. It was a battle. I remember, up front they were really good, and I don't remember what the score was, but we ended up losing. It was close.
Mm-hmm. So Coach Lapani, he won a title at Arcadia, and then he comes over to Hilton, and right away he turned around the program. I mean, that's when I remember still he made it into the sectionals. I think they played Fairport. This is before you. And then you guys win the sectionals. I hate to ask a general question, but what was that bus ride like on the way home? What was that reception like when you came home to the village and stuff like that?
After the sectional win?
Yeah.
It was incredible. The town, Hilton's a different town. Football in Hilton's a different thing. It's one of the things, I always remind the kids nowadays is, you're not playing just for yourself and your family and for each other, but you're playing for this community.
Mm-hmm.
And this community has really always had the back of Hilton football. And, I remember cars lined up all the way down Wilder Road, and horns going, and, not just, mom and dad, but it was the community, and cars lined up everywhere and beeping and celebrating. It was unbelievable. It was great atmosphere. Always has been.
So then you're a champion, and then you got to come back for your junior season. What was it like getting prepared for that year? Did you feel like there was a target on your back, or listen, you're in high school. I don't know how high school brains think. Or were you just like, hey, man, I just want to go out and knock some heads?
Yeah, that's it. I was preparing myself to start, play fullback and linebacker. So the fullbacks that were ahead of me were both seniors. So it was a situation where I was, just going to slide into, so to speak, and be ready to go. And, I was learning, the offense at the time, so again, another great opportunity to learn behind Paul Filippetti, and he was the starting fullback, and, he was great athlete, great fullback, great kicker. And, just that opportunity to learn, my sophomore year behind those guys prepared me for, my junior and senior year. So.
And how did the junior year go team-wise?
We did great. It was a good season. We had a good group of seniors, which were juniors the year before, obviously. And the juniors came up, which was my class, and it was great. We had another great year, a bunch of great battles on the field. We ended up losing in the sectional semis to Arcadia, to a close game, a physical game, but so good year.
I mean, again, like in Hilton football, it's you don't play to play; you play to make it into the top four, and so you play for championships. I always tell my Mod B kids that. So at that point, also, did John Starwell step into the starting quarterback position your junior year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then, so you got bounced in your junior season. You led your team in tackles again. I think 100 plus, correct?
Yes.
Right. Any postseason all-league awards, AGR, anything on that season, the junior year?
Not AGR that year. Not sure if it was, second team or something like that. But yeah, first team all county, and whatever else came along. I don't recall.
See, I can tell in your eyes, you're like, I don't really care. I kind of worried about the team and how they did.
Yeah, personal accolades were, they're great, but it's a team thing.
You also play a position that's a rough position. I mean, fullback in the Hilton offense, you're banging every play. And then the linebacker is awful tough. You had 350 tackles or more for your career, which is also a record. At that junior season, you guys hand out awards at the banquet. You remember if you got best back award or best linebacker award or anything like that?
Oh gosh.
Okay.
I can't recall that.
Mr. High,
You're
stop
really,
asking
you're
that.
really
Pressing the memory.
Really pressing the memory.
Now, when you said earlier, a lot of concussions and stuff. I mean, this was back in the mid '90s, so you may not have been joking too much because nowadays we diagnose them a lot better and stuff. All right, so then
different back then.
Yes, and so now you're heading into your senior year, and I forgot to ask, did you play in other sports besides football?
No, that was it. Football was it. I was year round preparing and getting ready, and I do wish I would have played baseball, but that's one regret that I do have.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, football was it. I was a one trick pony.
In the preparation back then, did you lift year round then too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Even back then, we were, had a weight off season program, and yeah, year round.
And what was the difference in size from your sophomore to your senior season? Like, how much weight did you put on between those 3 seasons,
Um,
if you remember, just
it was
roughly?
probably 15 pounds or so
Mm-hmm.
each year. Growing up,
Mm-hmm.
as a sophomore, you know, what are you, what are you, 16,
Yeah,
15, 16,
yeah.
so you're growing as it is. I think I grew an inch or two each year, and then, topped out at, by the time I was a senior, I wasn't huge or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like 6'1", 205.
Mm-hmm. Now, through your experience, do you think there's a proper time for kids to start lifting weights? I mean, I know you have a son coming up in the junior cadets program.
Yeah, yeah,
What's
it's
your
funny.
opinion with that?
Um, I think it's a personal preference, as
Mm-hmm.
far as, families, because it depends on the development of the kid and
Right.
kind of where they are at. So it's kind of hard to say one particular age or
Right.
year. Um, but for me, I'm going to get my son. He's ready now. He hit a little bit of a growth spurt, so he's coming into, his young man body, and
Mm-hmm.
he's ready to start training. So, and you always have that, you don't want to start them too early and start lifting while they're still growing and all that aspect. So it depends.
Have you ever coached your son in football?
Yeah, yeah. I coached him in C team, B team. Um, even though I didn't know what I was doing, I was t-ball and baseball,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was fun. Flag. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about your family, your wife, and your kids. Their
Married to
ages.
wife Bridget. She's amazing. Obviously, she's got to put up with me and uh, take care of me and the kids and all that. She's an amazing woman. I think we're going on, like, I don't know. I think we're going to be year 17,
Okay.
18 together, 20 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And one daughter, Ava. She's great. She's a swimmer. Does a great job. She's been on JV and varsity now since she was in 8th grade. She's a sophomore now this year, so she's getting up there. Um, Really good swimmer, dedicated. She swims year round swims for Haas and swims for the school, and so she's dedicated in her sport. Son Jackson, he's a football and baseball player, so he's doing stuff year round as well. Um, both really good athletes. Jackson, he's a standout in baseball and standout in football. So I'm blessed, in that regard. Both my kids are healthy and they're good, and active in sports.
Yeah, I like that. Healthy and then happy and all that.
Yeah.
Your wife, what does she do for a living, if I may ask?
Yeah, she works for a startup company. Um, she works for, they do an app, and it's like it's hard to explain. It's like a computer side of, you know uh, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, but it's different. It's clinical, and it's an application that different companies and different entities use in the healthcare system. So
Does she like to watch football, or did she meet you when you were playing football in college? Like,
yeah, no, she was an athlete herself. She played softball, she played basketball, and she did well in that regard. But yeah, her and her family were a football family, and they were a law enforcement family, and um, I actually met her kind of through football, if you will. My good friend of mine that I played college football with is her cousin, and we would go and visit him in the off season and go to his hometown and whatnot. So that's how I met her, and things blossomed from there, and here we are.
so you said you played softball and basketball, high school athlete, or did you go play also in college?
High school, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think she played in college for a minute or two. I don't know.
Whereabouts is she from?
She's down. She played in SV, Susquehanna Valley, down in Binghamton.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good to learn that. And I hope to see your son Jackson playing in the program
Oh yeah.
soon.
Soon.
Um, so you did some coaching when you were younger, a little bit of t-ball, some junior cadet C and B team.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes ask kids that played for their fathers, what's it like playing for their father? Now that I have you, what was it like coaching with your son or for your son? Was it tough for you, or were you able to kind of let him grow without?
Yeah, no, it was. I'm definitely not that coach son. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be playing quarterback and he's
Mm-hmm.
he's the running back and that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not my style. I think you probably know that. He's right from the bat. He's you're a player. You're not my son.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have that separation, or that's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to coach him just as hard and teach him just as hard as someone that's not my son. So, I think that's how you got to go about it. I'm definitely not one of those guys that, and I'm sure you see it, especially at the lower levels
Yep.
where the head coach, their kid is the starting quarterback, and, but that's not me.
And then furthermore, when you're coming home in the car and you've witnessed your kid play the sport that you love and were so successful in, how's the conversation? Are you pretty cool then too, or like?
It's always honest,
Mm-hmm.
whichever way it is. It's, even when he was 5 years old, both my kids, I think kids, you give them, you know, off the field, they're more receptive, and they know more what's going on than you give them credit for. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always taught my kids and um, parented my kids, probably a little bit older than what they really are, and gave
Mm-hmm.
them, think you give them a little bit more credit, or at
Mm-hmm.
least I did. So I did the same thing, on the football field or wherever. It's it's you're just real and honest, and no matter which way it is, if it's a coaching or a teaching moment, or if it's you didn't do well, you played like crap, or whatever, or this needs to be done, or we got to do it this way, or you played great and great job, you did this well, it's always honesty and what happened.
What about when you talk to your daughter? How's that? Do you modify it then?
No, same.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we raised her to be tough, and unfortunately, she's very similar to me and my personality, and so she takes it, and they learn and they grow from that, and I think they respect that I've always, and my wife as well.
Mm-hmm.
We've always taught them and parented them, like, you know, especially now that they're young adults, on that plane of, where we can sit down and talk and, have a close relationship on certain levels. So,
And you said you met your wife and she's a daughter of law enforcement. Is that true?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then your position, just real briefly, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. I work for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. I work in the jail bureau.
Okay.
Been there 22 years.
22 years?
Yeah. Three more on them. That's it.
Well, I usually tell veterans thank you for your service, but also
Thank
to the
you.
jailers, thank you for what you do. Now, if we slide over to you didn't play other sports in high school, even though you kind of wished you had played a little baseball. Um, you're in high school, you're having a lot of individual success, and what you said earlier about you remember the team successes more. When it came to finding a college to play at, was it obvious that your ceiling, I don't mean to use that negatively, was D3, or did you have other D2 feelers, or how did that recruitment seeking of college football teams go?
No, it wasn't a ceiling. Again, it was a different time then. It was a lot more difficult to um, put yourself out there. Where today there's apps and there's this and there's all kinds of stuff online and that help in the recruiting process. There wasn't really that, back in the '90s. So if you weren't a stud, if you weren't, they didn't even have star systems or grading systems like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just different back then. But um, personally, to get back to your question, I had, one AA schools at the time, which is, what do they call now, FCS, but
Okay.
um, that I was looking at, they were looking at me. So all through, it was either going to be a one AA school or a Division III school that I was looking at. I wasn't really focused on a Division II school.
Mm-hmm. And then earlier in our podcast, you mentioned that there's something about you went to Buffalo State, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. That attracted you to Buffalo State because it had similar characteristics of the Hilton football program. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, Buffalo State was incredible. It's a great experience. The coaching staff there was unbelievable. Jerry Boys was there. He's the head coach. Great leader, great man. The defensive coordinator at the time and for a number of years was oh my gosh, we had nicknames for him, but Dick Adams was there, and he was just an icon in Buffalo, very well known, very well respected coach through the high school ranks, but also at the college level. And Coach Bicka was at the time he became the defensive coordinator, but he was the linebackers and defensive line coach at the time when I was being recruited, and it was just it was all in, man. And they were on the verge at the time of they were getting better, and they were a young program as far as where they were headed. They had a great group of guys. The coaching staff was awesome, and they had that close knit family atmosphere. And that's something that obviously Hilton football always had, and it helped in that choosing process, if you will. That that was attractive to me.
In your recruitment process, did it consist of them coming to your games, or did you submit tapes? Like, how did that work?
Initially, I don't know if they came to a game or not, but it was tapes. They saw who made my highlight tape. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah,
This guy.
It was great job. To digress. That was at the time that was something that wasn't really done a whole lot, and you did a great job. It was phenomenal. It was well above. I got to the different schools it was sent to. It was very well received. So,
well, thank you,
yeah.
but I had good meat to work with.
Good. But yeah, no, that it was. They come around to the schools, and they know the players. They know a little bit about the who's who at the time, and they talk to you, and you give them your tapes, and they go from there. So my first calls were from the defensive coordinator, and he was an older gentleman, but he was the football knowledge, and he's God bless his soul, recently passed away a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing guy, and the football knowledge. We always said we've forgotten more than he ever knew about football.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a great coach, and he was the first couple phone calls that I got, and he was all in, man. He was excited, and he sold me. Between him and Coach Boys, I was like, all right, this is where I'm going.
Was the team up and coming, or were they established at that time and they were just trying to get a few more elements?
They were kind of up and coming. They hit a few pieces to the puzzle at the time. They were ascending, and I could see that, and there were a group of guys that it fit for what I wanted. I wanted to be far enough away from home. It fit everything that I wanted as far as the college, the everything down to the academics, to the campus, to football, and we were there, where they were headed. So everything kind of fit, and I'm sure you'll probably do a second question about it, but they were up and coming.
You guys were running your own podcast. I forgot to ask a little bit about mom and dad and any siblings that you have.
Mom and dad are great. They always supported me through football.
Mm-hmm.
I got a half brother. But yeah, mom was awesome. She was always the one taking me to and from
Mm-hmm.
practice, and always came to my games, and my extended family. My dad was at everything, every game, rain, sleet, and snow. Since I was 8 years old, all the way through, when I played briefly professionally for
Mm-hmm.
a year, and through college, he was at everything. But they were great, always supportive of sports.
Are they both still with us?
Yes. Yep.
And do they live locally?
Yep. Spencerport and Hilton.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So they can come to the grandkids
Yeah, they're still
events, and their son who's coaching now.
they're coming to the kids stuff, and always busy running around. But yeah, they're coming and enjoying their grandkids and enjoying them in the pool or on the field.
So when you're playing at Buffalo State, you started for 3 years and you were redshirted once.
Yeah.
And explain to our listeners that might not know, what's it mean to be a redshirt?
Redshirt is you come in, and now there's different rules for it. Nowadays you can play, 4 games and still get a redshirt. But back then you couldn't play a down, you couldn't play a snap. But you can travel, which is what I did. I was good enough to travel with the team. Just you can't get in a game. I suited up, traveled. It was your kind of emergency situation type player, but you got to experience the process, and that's the biggest thing. But you didn't play, so I didn't play, and you still have 4 years of eligibility is basically what it is.
Gotcha.
So,
Buffalo State Bengals, is it?
yep.
And you started, instead of interesting phrase, you learned the process. What was the process of Buffalo State football?
Yeah, being able to travel, you get to see everything from the itineraries, the business side of it, if you will. College football, people don't know at any level, whether it's D3, D2, 1AA, or you're at Alabama. It's a business, and you got to look at it and go at it like a business. You have itineraries, schedules, what time you meet, there's meetings, till 10 o'clock at night. And but as far as the traveling aspect of it, you get to see that, and you get to travel with the team. You're staying in hotels. You're becoming tight. You're becoming close knit. Um, and you're getting to know everybody on a personal level, their families. A lot of the coaches' wives and kids traveled. So you saw that, and you were a part of, that whole atmosphere and, how everything went down. It's great.
So in terms of a process, what would a normal week be like in preparation for, I would assume you played a lot of Saturday games.
Yep.
So like go through the Monday through the Saturday. Like what was a normal week like?
Um, you know, you have to include the whole aspect of, obviously academics,
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you majored in and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Too.
we can talk about that. Majored in football. No. But yeah, obviously the academics part of it. So, it's tough. Football is, you have a full-time job. It's a full-time job on top of going to school. So you had that aspect of it. And then you had your practice. You had, your lifting times. You had your study halls, things that, as freshmen, a lot of kids, they need that in order to manage their time and school and to help them with that transition process. So there's all that aspect of it. You're lifting, but practices, you ran usually the usual times. After practice, you had meetings, or you lifted or whatever. So, it was pretty stringent, and as far as the schedule goes, every Monday through Friday you had your practices. Friday was always a walkthrough, similar to a high school practice schedule, but different.
Mm-hmm.
And we games on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. And one interesting aspect that probably some people don't know about is, you play one way usually
Mm-hmm.
in college, and it's kind of it's crazy, but it's cool in a way, is that you're with your defensive guys and your offensive guys are over here. Defense is over here, and it's almost like you have two teams on one team.
Mm-hmm.
You get together obviously in team periods and different situations, but you're segregated almost, like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a kind of a competition within a competition a lot. So it's interesting, but yeah, you're busy, between school and practice and everything else. It's a busy schedule.
What did you major in?
Art education.
Art education.
Yeah.
You're a good artist?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's news to me.
Yeah. I was undecided for a couple years. I always wanted to get into law enforcement at
Mm-hmm.
some level. Was always striving for government,
Mm-hmm.
FBI, something like that. So, but criminal justice degree isn't necessarily something that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So art was kind of a secondary thing, not necessarily a fallback plan, but kind of a second option if law
Mm-hmm.
enforcement didn't work out. That I'd get my teaching degree and go from there.
Coach Sapani used to have a number 49 football player, and it was drawn in pencil. Did you do that?
No,
Oh, you didn't do that?
no.
Oh, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's of you, of course, but
No, I know who did though.
you did?
I'm not going to say his.
Okay, all right. I'd like that.
Because he was a young kid that liked how I played. He was probably 8 years old at the time, and he was a friend of a family, and he just taken a liking to me and how I played football at a young age, and I was his favorite player, and
It's awesome.
he drew that picture, and it's funny, he took on that number throughout the years, and he actually became a coach, and he was a good football player. He played in college, coached at Hilton for a little bit, and you know who he is.
I probably do, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But you could see my eyes going da 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 da. All right, so let's go.
He would tell you, but
yeah,
it's fun. It's a fun story.
you could tell me off air if
Yeah.
I get that wrong. And so in college, what was the conference that you played in? Was it the SUNYAC or I'm not?
No, at the time we were independent. We didn't have. We were in conference, so there wasn't the. There wasn't anything. Conference things that we did that normal conferences, like stats or awards or any of that stuff. We were independent, so we played anybody and everybody. We played Division II schools. We played 1AA schools. We were kind of all over the place as far as our schedule goes.
And what size did you get to while you were in college? Like you said about 205 in high school. What size did you get to in college?
I played at like 230, 235 was like my junior and senior year.
And did you
maintain good 230, 235?
Good 230. Did you maintain your speed? Did you get faster during all that too, or?
Yeah. You got to maintain your speed. That's a huge part of the game. I wasn't lightning fast by any stretch, but I had game speed. You know what I mean? I felt always quicker as far as running in a straight line on a football field. I was a lot quicker as far as that goes. But yeah, you got to keep your speed and keep your agility at the same time. You got to be able to, be heavy enough, especially back in the 90s. It was a different type of game back then, but
bigger shoulder pads.
Oh yeah.
So your defensive style that you guys did at Buff State, did you come off the field or did you, during passing situations, or were you on the field the whole time?
No, I was a 4-down linebacker. Played special teams first couple of years, but my junior and senior year, it was strictly just defense.
And how did the team do in terms of, overall records and stuff like that while you were there?
Good. I think personally, or not personally, but my year we were 32-8 overall. While I was there, and we had a really great run. We were either in the NCAA tournament, playing for a national championship, or we played in an ECAC bowl game, they call it, which is kind of like, you just didn't make the bracket, but it was like a consolation, bowl game. They call it an ECAC, East Coast ball game from a different school, and you played. We won one of those.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, but over your career, you had 350 plus career tackles, 20 tackles for loss per year, 8 sacks. Is that per year or was that total?
Per year. I think my junior, senior year, I had 8 sacks both years.
Okay.
And a couple here and there in between.
All still records. And then you were AFCA All-American first team?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was your senior season?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd your body hold up after all those years of playing football in college?
Good at the time, You're
feeling it a little bit more now?
Yeah, you feel it now as you get older. You hit 30 after all those years of contact sports, it catches up with you. And that was kind of the year where things start falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, luckily I didn't have, any major injuries. I didn't have any, knees blown out, or I had your usual, sprains and strains and jams and, all that stuff. Had a back injury, but nothing crazy that, required surgery or,
Kept you out of anything.
extraordinary. Yeah.
So you're also, okay. And then before we get your professional playing too, right? How did you make yourself go from a good player to a great player? General question, and I don't know how you feel about it. But
Yeah, it's a good question. It's
physically
it's
and
not,
mentally, both of them.
yeah, it's not it's a good question because you have to be a student of the game, number one. Especially at that level, at the next level. I don't care if it's D3 or Division 1. Football's football. Um, you know, I've always said it's D3 is, like the land of the 6-footers, or it's 2 inches and 2/10. That's the difference between D3 and D1. It's not much. The guys that play D3 are the best on their teams across the country. Same, they're the AGR players, they're the all-state players. It's not easy. Some people think D3s, oh, it's just D3. It's not, it's football, and it's hard. But back to your question, you got to be a student of the game. You got to really study film. You got to study your opponents. You got to study yourself. And what I mean by that is you got to know what you're good at, what your limitations are, and correct those things, get better at those things, and you got to constantly be self-aware. So yeah, it's a combination of things. It's a good question, but a lot of it's the game of football is it's a mental sport. A lot of it is 70% mental, 30% physical. So it's a mindset a lot, and it's a thinking man's game. It's not just a brute sport.
When you were in high school, we were on Channel 12, and we used to cover your games, and we would hook into the feed of and we'd broadcast the games, do live play-by-play and commentary.
Yeah,
you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And when you won the sectionals that year, I think it was over Edison, right? Your senior year. Bob Streb made that catch to tie it, and it was triple overtime. Mike Sherwin, John Starwald. It was. I'm not doing it justice, and I apologize. And after the game, I wanted to go get a post-game conversation by you or whatever. And I walked in the locker room, and you probably don't remember. You were just sitting there with your head in your hands, just like, oh my God, like you were completely drained. And so physically, I could see that, you were just in anguish and just exhausted. For people that don't know and they hear it's a mental game, how do you preach mental toughness, or how does a kid become mentally tough?
Well,
You
first
can go
part
back.
is I remember.
Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that. And what's funny is I've thought about telling that a little bit of that story to the kids pregame and stuff. I haven't yet.
Okay.
I'm kind of maybe saving it,
Yeah.
but it was it was a battle, and it went into 3 overtimes, so it was an extended period of time. But it's funny. I was in exhaustion, and you got to leave. We always say leave it all on the field. And a lot of us did that day, and I sure as hell did. And I remember not only just being exhausted and mentally drained and physically drained, but I was so you say anguish. I was in anguish, and I remember the bus ride home. I had the garbage can in the back of the bus, and I was throwing up in the can on the way home, just because the adrenaline dump, and just being so drained. I was puking, and it was a crazy game. It was awesome, but it was physical, and it was draining for sure. But as far as teaching mental toughness, I think
Or
a
how
lot
do
of
you
it,
maybe model it? I don't know.
it's tough. It's funny because we always say these generation of kids are a lot different. So that's a hard thing to do, to teach mental toughness, but you have to try to not you're teaching all the little things about football, but football is, like I said, is a mental game, and to be able to teach mental toughness. Well, what is mental toughness, right? You have to. What is that? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot of things. It's responding to adversity. Being mature. Um, being able to sacrifice yourself and your body every play, and to play for that guy next to you. And you're not playing for yourself; you're playing for him. And that's again, that goes back to what Hilton football is all about. Is you're playing for this guy and you're playing for that guy. You're not playing for yourself. And you know that everything kind of goes hand in hand as far as mental toughness goes. So it's a hard question to answer.
Well, I think the way you answered it, it's a hard thing to define.
Yeah.
So if it's hard to define, it's probably hard to how to preach it.
Yeah.
Some of the guys I remembered you played with there, Phil Trubia, I think Ronnie Lebdell was on that team.
Yeah.
Jason
a couple
Emler.
years younger. Yeah.
Was Dincher on that team?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Bobby Straub. Call him Bob Straub. The Starwalds.
Great guys. Great team.
There was a great team. And again, I apologize for leaving anybody out, but it was a great team, great season to watch. Didn't end that great, right? You guys went to actually Buff State, right? And didn't you play the
Stadium.
Southwest Billies or whatever?
Yeah, Williamsville.
Or Williamsville.
It was Williamsville
South or North?
One of them. I don't know. I try to forget that game.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
No, it didn't go our way. Let's say that. And we couldn't stop. We stopped their run game. We couldn't stop their air attack. They had a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
And, back then, there wasn't a lot of great quarterbacks that could sling it.
Right.
And that kid could sling it. And, kind of, it's not that we weren't prepared for that, but it was just, we didn't see that a lot. And they kind of threw the ball all over on us a little bit. And everything went wrong that could have went wrong that game. We had a blocked punt and a snap went over someone's head and a fumble and a pass went between someone's hands and they picked it off. It was kind of one of those, all the bounces went their way. And the score
was lopsided.
Lopsided. It indicated it. So, and it was tough. It was not an easy thing, personally either to.
Which stadium was that at?
It was at UB's new stadium that they had back in, 94. This is 94. So it was their brand new stadium at the time.
And then you also talked about playing professionally. Tell me a little bit about that.
The year after I stopped playing in 99, I coached a year to finish up my degree in student teaching and all that. So I was in 2000, I was still with Buffalo State. I didn't get on to any teams, if you will. But opportunity came up. I was pursuing playing for the Buffalo Destroyers, which is the arena football team in Buffalo. And at the time, they're having a startup of expansion team in Rochester, which was the Rochester Brigade for the AF2, which was like the next league of the Arena Football League. So tried out for them, had an opportunity to sign with them and did, and played. And
how many years was that?
Just the 1 year.
Did the league go defunct, or you?
It did. It took a couple years, but the Rochester team went under, and I think that league stayed around for a little while, but it didn't catch on in Rochester like it should have, because Rochester's a great football town. There's other reasons why, the coaching wasn't the best, without getting too much detail about that. But,
right. Well, you're also dealing with what? It's a professional team, but you guys were having another job. And did you have to work in another job, or like what was that like?
I wasn't working at the time because I had just finished up my degree, and I transitioned right that spring right into playing for them. So I was trying to focus on playing for them and to, as a stepping stone. I wanted obviously to play professionally and keep kind of going up and see where I could take it. So no, I wasn't. I was just training and playing for them. So yeah, that's it. I moved back home. Came back. Obviously, it was convenient because it was here in Rochester. Moved back home, and I was just playing and training and focusing on football.
And your body was in good shape at this time too?
Yeah, I had a year off. I was able, it gave me a chance to continue to train and heal, and I was pretty fresh. It was good. Unfortunately, our scrimmage, our first scrimmage right before the season started, we were I don't know if we were at the Destroyers facility, and I was sacking the quarterback, and I was diving for him, and I got turf toe. And turf toe is a devastating
See, because you
injury.
hear about it and you're like, okay, how bad could turf toe be?
It's probably, if you talk to anybody in the NFL, it's probably one of the most debilitating injuries.
Okay.
To play with.
And you get it
have it
on one play, or does it erode over and over, and then you get it? Like, then you get diagnosed with it?
No, it happens usually on one play. Like, my toe came into the turf like this, and that's how you kind of like jam it. You jam your big toe.
Okay.
And it's called turf toe. And obviously, back then the turf was concrete and a layer of synthetic grass. That's what you played on. So it didn't have a lot of give. So when you got turf toe, and obviously, you're on your feet, you're constantly aggravating it. And, it's really painful. It doesn't heal. It's one of those nagging things, but
what's the only treatment? Just staying off? I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes it's surgery. A lot of these guys, they'll have surgery. But obviously I wasn't in a position to have surgery. It was play or and keep going and keep pushing through. So, I was, playing with modified braces on my foot and trying to keep the toe straight. But none of that, that doesn't work. It's just, so you try to play through the pain. And so I had that. So that kind of derailed things. I still played and was playing well, even with that injury. But then halfway through the season, I got a really bad concussion. And that was kind of it. I saw, even though I still wanted to keep playing, I had too many concussions throughout the years, and that was kind of, I was having some post-concussion syndrome after that. So I didn't rebound like I did from that. And I was like, this is it, I'm going to hang him up. So that's kind of how that went.
Must have been tough. What are some of the post-concussion syndrome symptoms? Was it multiple headaches or sensitivity?
Yeah, all that sensitivity to the light, headaches, migraines, unbalanced. I was trying to practice, and vertigo feelings, and all those symptoms weren't going away. And and that was after a week or so of not playing, not doing anything. So when they occur or reoccur, it's an indication that maybe something's going on or whatever. That's obviously the technology and the information has changed quite a bit. Yeah, I've had my share of CAT scans and
good
MRIs and stuff, but back then, and so nothing was going on. There was no bleeds or no aneurysms or no indicators of anything serious, but I was still having those symptoms, and it was just time. It was time
to hang up the cleats.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the NFL does enough with their protocol, with their, they have neurosurgeons or whatever, to keep the guys, safe, stuff when they see hits and things like that nowadays? I know that's a kind of an opinion, but
yeah,
can you explain maybe to our viewers what they do now at the highest level to ensure these guys are protected?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, technology has changed. The helmets have changed. Not only has the, how you hit, and how the NFL especially changing the way of how you tackle and how you hit, and they're the player safety aspect of everything that they're doing. But the helmets have changed, the technology in the helmets have changed. So all those things are helping in that regard. It's kind of not to go sideways here on what the NFL is doing, what the NFL is not doing as far as
Right.
player safety, because that's a business, that's a
Right.
$1 billion business.
Right.
So I think they're doing what they need to do as far as protecting their players with the concussion stuff, and obviously over the years, there's been a lot of research, and there's been a lot of publicity about players in the league and what over the years what concussions can do to somebody. So
Right.
it's
Well,
crazy.
I'm glad you took your precautions and you knew when was when, and
Yeah,
things are okay and everything.
so far.
And you're going to keep on top of it and,
Yeah.
and all that.
Oh yeah.
You got a son that likes to play football.
Yeah.
What about your concerns with him?
Yeah, that's people always ask me, well, you had concussions, aren't you worried about your son? And I'm like, no, things have changed as far as, again, we talked
Everything you
about
were
this.
just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Techniques have changed.
Mhm.
Personally, I've talked to him about it, and how to tackle the right way, and all that aspect of it. But all the things that I had and went through, I still wouldn't change anything.
Right.
And that's because that goes back to the love of the game.
Right.
I might end up, eating out of a straw with dementia and not know my name, but I wouldn't change it. Some people would say that's crazy, but that's me. I love football and I love the game, and I wouldn't change it.
I hear you. What did Can you teach art? Would you ever go back and teach art? It sounds like you have a degree. Would you ever do that?
I
mean, you're
probably not.
Probably not, because you've been going to be working 25 years before you retire, right?
Yeah. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Like all the student teaching, and I substituted for a while, and I love teaching. Coaching is teaching.
100%. Yeah.
Most of your coaches are good teachers, and your good teachers are good coaches.
Yep.
So that aspect of it, I enjoyed it. Could I have gone down that road as for a career? Absolutely. And I would think I would have been successful and happy. But now, no. No.
Any post-retirement ideas, or is it going to go out in the garden or whatever?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do as little as possible as far as work goes. I'm not, and it'll be something that I love. Whatever I'm doing, and if it's not just for me, it'll be something that I love doing.
Get on that motorcycle, travel across the country. Any early jobs you had that were cool, like in high school or in college, that you did for money and stuff like that? What did Jon Crumley do?
Oh, geez.
If he had any free time from football workouts?
Yeah, we worked. Yeah, me and Jeff Dinsher worked at Streb Steakhouse, the old steakhouse off on Ridge Road here.
Yeah.
We were dishwashers for a couple of years. Me and him were in there, and having a good time, working together. And
you said you did dishes?
We did dishes, and I got promoted before him. So sorry, John. I went up to food prep. I was a food prep.
So you could make salads?
Yeah, you do all that stuff. You prep the food and salads and help the chefs out with stuff. But yeah, that was the first real paycheck job. But besides, the landscaping and, I did that, did a couple baling hay, a couple summers of that, and, always working, same thing my kids are going to be doing. They're going to be working, know what it's like to work and earn a paycheck and what $1 is.
Exactly. So you got the sophomore daughter and then the 7th grade boy?
Yeah.
Okay. So you played on 2 championship teams in Hilton. You were successful in college, individually and team-wise. And then in your first 3 years of helping out with Hilton, you guys won a sectional title. What do players need to advance to a championship level?
What do they need?
Yeah.
As far as anything specific?
Anything specific, like they need great coaching. I'm not going to deny that. What do they need to bring that from themselves? What do they need to be responsible for individually that helps collectively with the team?
You need good players,
Right. Lapani's very obvious about saying you need talent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you need the talent. Coaching, I think, is a huge aspect of it. But they need to be bought in. That's the biggest thing, and that's one of the hardest things generational wise. I think now is the want. They gotta want. They gotta love the game. They gotta want to play for that guy next to them. Those are the biggest lessons that are going to take these kids further in life. But also on the football field to win a championship is it's an emotional game. It really is, and you gotta play with emotion, and you gotta play with the love of the game, and you gotta have the buy-in. You gotta have the want. If you don't have the want and the ability to sacrifice and to play for that guy next to you, you can have all the talent in the world, but and we play teams that have a lot of talent, but they're not good teams. So
I don't think you can say it better than that. And then Hilton High School Athletic Hall of Fame, you were a 2012 inductee. Why did it take you 17 years to get inducted?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm glad you're in there because you look good there. So I did look that up finally. Some favorites.
Just to touch on that.
Sure.
One of a special moment for me, because the way you said that is Dick LeBeau, who's obviously not with us anymore, and a great man and a great athletic director at Hilton, and a friend. I consider him a friend, but as a player, as a student athlete, he was always there and always a huge supporter of the football program, and he was there that day, and it was nice. And he said, John, he's like, sorry it took us so long to get you in here, and glad we finally got you in here. It just reminded me of that.
Well, good. I'm glad you brought it to our viewers and listeners because he was a great guy. I mean, I don't think I was never a coach under him, but I knew his children, and every coach that I've ever talked has just had glowing remarks about him. So there you go, Dick.
Yeah.
Some favorites. What's Jon Crumley's favorite food?
Oh, geez.
Something you make, something the wife makes, some restaurant.
Food. Gosh, I don't know.
No, nothing.
I like all kinds of different.
Okay, can you say pasta? Meat,
favorite.
No favorite.
All right, steak, ribeye. Ribeye steak.
Yeah. Ribeye. It's just, I don't know.
It's the best cut, man.
All right. Well, I tried it once. I love the place I got it from. Not a big fan, but hey, this is your podcast. Favorite sports movie?
Sports movie.
Let's
go to the program.
The program?
Yeah, how's that?
I've never seen it.
You need to take that off.
Program. Who's the star in that? Is it Tom Cruise? He's in all those movies.
No, it's not a B movie, but there isn't.
What's a B movie? What's the definition of a B movie?
I think who's in that? It's not. It's
the program.
I think James Caan is probably the biggest name.
Okay,
He's the head coach.
All right. So is it a serious movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
It's actually a pretty good depiction of college football.
Okay.
They touch upon. It's a crazy movie, but they touch upon a lot of different things in that movie.
All right.
Something to watch.
All right. I'll take these off and put it on my
there you go
laptop. Favorite quote?
Oh gosh.
You think of an old assistant coach. You could think of I don't know.
How about that's garbage?
That's I know who says that one. Says it all without cursing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Favorite TV show or binge show to watch?
With the family, we still have our certain shows, but Modern Family was always a great one that we always watch.
Mm-hmm.
SVU, we watch a lot. With the fam, we're binging.
Good.
So those are probably the two top ones.
Favorite book?
Gosh,
if you have to go back, do you seriously?
No.
Are you a reader?
God, no.
I know, so you don't have to answer that.
No, I will. I will because I do have one, and it's the Da Vinci Code. It's incredible, and isn't
that just a movie? Can't you just watch the movie?
No, it's a book that became a movie.
Who wrote it?
Did you read the Da Vinci Code?
No, I heard
Dan
of it.
Brown.
Is
incredible.
Really?
Great book. Great, better than the movie. Great book.
So I have to read the book. How long's the book?
I don't know. I couldn't put it down, and I don't read books.
Okay. Good to know again.
How long is it? I don't know. This long.
The program and the Da Vinci Code. I'm taking notes. Relaxing activity.
Being out in the wilderness, are just zoning out. Like to enjoy a cigar.
Mm-hmm.
That's a relaxing time, but getting out, getting in the quiet probably, and
Are
enjoying
you a
the
hunter
outdoors.
or a fisher or hiker?
Both.
Oh.
All.
So what do you hunt for? Deer,
Yeah.
turkey,
Deer.
pheasant?
Deer.
With gun or with bow and arrow?
Both.
Oh.
Yeah.
You teaching your son how to do it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Daughter too.
How chauvinistic of me to say
it's
that.
terrible. Can't believe you said
Ava,
that.
I'm sorry. Bridget, I'm sorry. All right. Last question before I ask you. Second to last. If there's a person from history, alive or dead, that you could have the dinner with, who would it be and why?
Gosh. I'm not going to tell you who the first person that popped into my head is.
Off camera again.
Gosh, I don't know. I'd probably go because
History
we're in the
fan.
football thing. I would say Vince Lombardi,
Mm-hmm.
just because of not only the game, but his mind and just the magnanimous personality that he was. He'd be a good guy to dig into.
Mm-hmm. What do you think his favorite meat is?
Oh my God, raw steak.
All right. And then this is a tough one because I think it really, you have to look upon yourself and what you're going to leave on this earth. What do you think the legacy of Jon Crumley is going to be? Whether it's on your kids, whether it's on your school, your college, your community, whatever you think it is. What do you think it's going to be?
As far as football goes, on that aspect of it, one of the things that I have talked to the kids in the past is, what's your legacy going to be? Those exact words.
Mm-hmm.
What's your legacy on the field? What's your legacy in this sport? What's your legacy on this year or team? And it's funny. I've said that very thing. I don't know. Some of these things are flying back in my brain here. When I was inducted in the Buffalo State's Hall of Fame.
Oh, I forgot that.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
When that was one of the things, that was a goal, in college is what's your legacy? What are you going to leave? And we did that, we did some things and we left, and I feel like in that regard, whether it's records or whatever, I feel like I stamped my football legacy in stone a little bit. And, for the most part, people still know the name a little bit. It's funny, my kids go through it, your dad, Jon Crumley, and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And, so they kind of hear that from people in the community or in Buffalo, so I feel like I did that in terms of, focusing on football and what I did, which I'm proud of. But what I would want to leave is probably just, making sure that my kids and my family are they do better than I ever did, and I guess that's kind of like what a parent always wants is, you want your kids and, your kids' kids, your grandkids to, always do a little bit better and to succeed a little bit more and have things a little bit easier than you had. And, talk about dad and talk about grandpa, about different things, but, making sure that their success is there.
Very, very profound. Out of a guy that's taken a lot of hits and given a lot of hits.
Nice.
And I, when I hand out jerseys to my Mod B team, every time I hand out 49, I literally say to the kid, you are wearing the jersey. And I say this of the best Hilton football player I've ever seen. And it's one of the, Rich Lapani, he's very humble to hand out accolades. But if there's a way that he wanted a kid to play, it's the way you played. And there's never been another 49. And I don't know if there's going to be. but I'm really glad I had you on the podcast.
I appreciate that.
And I got to know a lot more about you. In the future, we're going to have people like Sonny Tobias, Casey Kasorik, Dave Marine, Terry Gilmore, but Jon Crumley, it was great having you on.
I miss you.
And
thank you.
here's to more Hilton wins.
Absolutely.
And we'll be following you.
Awesome.
All right.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Thank you for me having you.
Thank you. Awesome.
The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find